Fencer Lauren Scruggs won silver in her competition, becoming the first Black American woman ever to win an individual medal in the sport.
You know, my mom at the very beginning of my career was like, it's just you against the world, basically. Like,
in a series of firsts, Lauren Scruggs takes second on the world stage.
If you could go back in time and tell her something, what would you want to say?
I think you just got to keep pushing. Like, you see that now I'm a super confident person on the strip. I think that comes from, my early beginnings of I was really just having to focus on myself.
The women's single foil final for Lauren Scruggs and Team USA was an historic moment for all of them.
The more you watch, the more you tune in, the better things will get. So yeah, tune into women's sports.
Hey everyone, Jamie here. Welcome to Flame Bearers Unedited, a brand new series bringing to you largely unedited conversation. We heard you loud and clear. You want to hear more stories of more elite women athletes from around the world. So let's jump in.
Yeah, so I'm Lauren Scruggs, two-time Olympic medalist in the Paris Games and a Harvard senior.
And Lauren, we've talked a little bit about this, but how did you get into fencing?
Yeah, so I kind of got into fencing through my brother. He, was the first one to do it. He's 6 years older than me. So I think I grew up kind of in the stroller, watching him at the tournaments, always being like, man, I feel like I could be better at this than him. So, when I was old enough, I started fencing and yeah, I was pretty good. I think, as soon as I started, the sport kind of just fit with me. And then, yeah, rest is history.
So you said that you wanted to be better than him. Can you beat him now? Yes. When did that happen?
Maybe, but he's really tall. He's 6 feet. I'm 5 feet, he's 6 feet tall. So it's still hard to fence him. But, I think in terms of accomplishments, I think I got him beat.
One of the things that we like to focus on is the power of role models, and because we believe if you can see it, you can be it. So you obviously had your older brother who was fencing. Who were the individuals in sport that you grew up looking up to?
Yeah, so I definitely grew up kind of looking up to this woman, Nzinga Prescott. She's a fencer, also a Black woman, and so she was kind of one of my big role models that I looked up to. But I think outside of fencing, I always admired Serena Williams, just how fierce she competed and, the energy she put out. So I think I kind of, try to emulate that when I fence.
Absolutely. And I know you were the first Black American woman to win a individual medal in fencing. What did that mean to you?
I think for me, it's special that, I grew up looking up to people and, now I feel like, people will look up to me. And so I think, it's really honoring to do something like that, to give people hope and to, be someone people can look up to. So I think that's super cool. I wasn't planning on doing anything super big at the Olympics, truth be told. So just to have that feat and to be someone for someone else is just amazing.
Be that person for definitely a lot of different people. I think everything that you've accomplished is so important and so cool. I'd love to ask a little bit about what that was like playing a predominantly white sport, if you will. Tell us about your experience.
Growing up, there's a lot of differences that I had. I wasn't super rich compared to a lot of typical fencers. Came from a single parent household, so it was really just me and my mom, sometimes me and my grandma. And then also I was Black, so I was definitely stuck out.
A lot of different things.
Yeah. So with all those things in mind, my mom at the very beginning of my career was it's just you against the world, basically. Doesn't matter what everyone else is doing, what they say. Your job is just to go there, win the tournament, and then boom. They're not gonna say anything if they're losing, basically, right? And you're winning. That was kind of the mentality that I grew up with. So I think because I had the mentality and my mom was always a big force behind me, I didn't really pay attention to it. Obviously, I felt it. It was a little alienating being that person. But I think because I had this mentality, it really didn't feel that bad to me. But for sure, it's really bizarre. I went to a private school, so I also felt some of that. I was one of maybe 5 Black kids in my grade. So definitely a lot of spaces I've been in, I've definitely been the only Black person or one of few. So for me, it was just oh man, this is just another space where, it's just me. And so I think, through those experiences, I was able to kind of deal with it pretty well, but definitely felt that alienation at times, yeah.
What advice would you give to people who are currently that person who is one of the only people in whatever space they are? Maybe it's they're Black, maybe it's they have a single mom, maybe it is they're from a poor community. All those reasons that you listed that you said made you feel different. What would you say to someone today who is in kind of your shoes?
Yeah, I mean, the number one tip is really just like focus on yourself. Like there's always going to be, so many outside things that can distract you or bother you. But at the end of the day, like it's really just you against the world and, you against everything else. So really just invest a lot of time in, developing yourself, your confidence. You see that now I'm a super confident person on the ship. I think that comes from, my early beginnings of I was really just having to focus on myself and not interact with a lot of other people. So yeah, just focus on yourself, build up that self-confidence because I think in the end it'll pay off. Self-confidence is key.
How do you do that? So I absolutely love everything that you're saying. If I rewind and put myself into my shoes where I was mentally and emotionally when I was younger, I would hear that and be like, wow, yeah, I want to be confident. How do you actually do that?
The way I do it is I honestly just try to basically not pay attention to other people, like be a little selfish, ignore people. At the tournaments, gotta, put your headphones on, like don't talk to anyone. And I feel like it does take a little bit of bravery, like to, be that, your whole self. It takes a lot of bravery, but I would try to do everything just to literally focus on yourself. Like take yourself out of scenarios, put your headphones on, be a little antisocial, a little selfish, with what you want. I think that's key.
Those are such great points. And I know you mentioned that you worked with the Peter Westbrook Foundation. So let's hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, they're great. They're basically one of the only foundations on U.S. fencing that's really focused on expanding fencing to underserved communities. So as you know, it's started by Peter Westbrook, basically one of the first great Black fencers in American history. And so he started this foundation basically to, give back. Like, he didn't grow up with a lot. He didn't see people who looked like him. So he wanted to create a foundation to basically change that.
So awesome.
And so, the work I do there, basically every Saturday we come in, we work out with the kids, we teach them fencing. There's also academic programs for the kids. So he really emphasizes academics. Being in that space, is really rare in fencing. Basically, everyone in there is a person of color. And so to come in to that practice versus a practice on a regular day of the week is so much different. And it's a great experience.
Wow. You just mentioned the dichotomy between going into an everyday practice versus a Peter Westbrook practice, and it's a totally different look and feel. That's, incredible that you're continuing to pay it forward there.
It's sick. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
You mentioned that the foundation really focuses on academics. You've obviously absolutely killed it. You're a senior at Harvard. How have you balanced being a professional elite athlete with also being a full-time student? That's a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. College is not easy. But number one thing is just communicating with your professors. They want to help you. And so understanding that just allows you to, you're not as shy to reach out for help, to communicate when you're going to leave. Because if I know my professor is going to want to help me, then I'm just going to tell them my situation. So communication and also time management. I feel like over the years, I've built up really good time management skills. And so it's allowed me to travel one day and come back to class the other and be fine. So yeah, communication, time management, that's all it is.
So when you go to class, you have a professor who wants to help you. What does that actually look like? Are you saying, hey, I have a competition on this date? Walk us through what that actually is like in your life.
Well, first, even before I register for the class, I'll email the professor and hey, I'm an athlete. I travel. Is this going to be a problem? And some of them will be like, yeah, your participation will be affected. So I'll be like, okay, that's fine. I won't take that class.
Wow.
So yeah, do that
so much
first.
Forethought. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you're actually enrolled, emailing the professor ahead of time of these dates, when you'll be gone, asking for an extension, not the week of, maybe the week before, little things like that.
Great tips for any student, let alone someone at the highest level of sport, because I feel like all students are figuring out time management skills and how to deal with everything. And I know you're in the throes of finals and everything going on senior year. So can you share a little bit about Lauren, the student, what this journey has looked like for you?
I don't know, I definitely struggled with school because there's a big jump from there was high school and then COVID. So I wasn't really doing school. It was online. And then you go to college where everything's like in person and like obviously the bar is much higher here, going to class with like the best of the best students. I was a good student, but like not like valedictorian like best. So definitely a big jump. And then studying things like I've never even seen really in high school, like econ, even some philosophy courses, which are super intense. So definitely took a while to adjust to just like the intensity here.
Yeah.
But after like exploring a bunch of different courses, classwork, kind of found my footing and found what worked for me. So it's definitely been a tough journey, but a rewarding one.
I have so many different follow-ups there. You mentioned COVID. What was your COVID experience like? Where were you? How did you survive that? Because as an elite athlete, I'm sure that threw a massive wrench in not only your training, but your academics that you were saying you were studying and working alone.
In terms of sports, I actually was injured during COVID. So it was kind of like the perfect time to get injured. I tore my labrum in my hip. So I was just basically like healing during that time. I would like stretch a lot, do the PT exercises, and I wasn't fencing, so I was great on that end.
Okay.
I did have to do like obviously like strength training because fencing requires a lot of, you gotta use your muscles and they can just dissolve so fast. So that on that end, that was going on. Basically all tournaments stopped. So it was just like a break. Academics was really crazy. Truth be told, like I definitely learned like a quarter of what I usually learn during COVID time. Like everything was on Zoom. There's so many distractions at home. I just got a Switch. So you can imagine it wasn't really.
You're like in class playing.
Yeah. It was tough for my teachers too. Obviously it's like frustrating to like teach on Zoom. So yeah, I mean, school was just like difficult in general, but finished it. And then senior year is when I started to come back to like in person. So that was cool. So they'll wear masks and everything. And yeah, that was kind of my COVID experience. It wasn't that bad. I basically was in my house all day.
I am so intrigued by what it was like. So you were a junior in high school when COVID happened, right? Did that change your classmates at all? Like, I just can't even imagine being in school during COVID. That to me is mind blowing.
Yeah. It was definitely like weird. Like we came back, like we took a break, came back to school, and like a lot of people just like seemed different. Like obviously we aged. So I think that was like, usually you see your classmates every day. So you see them grow up. So it doesn't feel that like weird, but like to suddenly like basically not see your classmates for a year and like them to come back and like, whoa. Yeah, a lot of people change like personality wise, interest wise. So yeah, that was kind of like crazy it was like I took a break basically from seeing all my friends and then came back and saw them. So that was crazy.
Was that helpful at all from a mental health perspective? You used the word break a couple times. I know obviously COVID was really stressful and upsetting and challenging in other ways, but the way you've talked about it as like a break, was that supportive or beneficial for you in any way as well?
I think it gave me time to really think about things. Like I think my life was so fast paced. Like I was traveling for fencing and then going to school, traveling for fencing, and then I suddenly had all this free time just to chill. Started thinking more about like what I want to do, maybe career after fencing, think about my future, like, fencing aside my future, what I want to do. And so, and that's also helped a lot in terms of like recruiting, because, junior, that's when you kind of do the recruiting process. And so I was always going to go where my brother went. My brother went to Columbia to fence. And so I was like, oh yeah, I'll just do that, like stay in New York. Like I was locked in my room for like half a year. Maybe I should leave New York and try something new. And so that's kind of when I was like, oh, like I had the chance to go to Harvard, amazing school, basically number one school in the country. Should definitely just, step out of my comfort zone and maybe reach out. COVID kind of like changed my life in that it led me to this new, path.
Wow. So did you actually end up reaching out to Harvard then? Or had you been set on Columbia and they reached out to you? What did that look like?
Harvard had reached out to me before. I knew Daria, the coach, from like past experiences. So they definitely reached out, but it wasn't until really like that COVID time after that I, basically responded to Daria. I was like, yeah, I'm interested. And my decision was pretty late in the process. I did it around this time, which is a bit late. Like usually kids commit before that. So I switched and then obviously I had to do the whole process of like starting my Common App and writing my essays. But yeah, I switched pretty late.
So it is the dream of millions of people to go to Harvard. What has this been like for you? You made it happen. You've absolutely killed it. I know you're writing your thesis now. Share a little bit about your Harvard experience.
So Harvard is like insane. Like I feel like everyone I meet here is like super smart and like top of the top. And so it's just, I'm really grateful to be in a community where like everyone I meet has something very special going on with them. Like one of my friends, Kane, he's like a crazy inventor startup dude. And like, he's always has something crazy going on. One of my friends, they're going to Yale Law School. Another one's working this big private equity fund. People going to medical school, doing all these big things. So it's really cool to just constantly be surrounded by like greatness, which I think is super important. Like you want to be surrounded by the great people in the world because I think that'll just like push you to go a step further. And so I think it's really been beneficial in terms of just like goal setting higher expectations for myself, things of that nature. Also, it's Harvard, so like you just get access to like all these cool people. Like you have people coming in to visit, like at the IOP. You have a lot of startup founders coming to visit. It's just a phenomenal place with so many resources.
Such an incredible opportunity and experience. For those who don't know, the IOP is the Institute of Politics. All these acronyms. And I know you're into philosophy and finance. So share a little bit about your academic experience and what you have planned after, because I know you are also one of those greats who has an incredible job lined up.
So philosophy for me, the logic there was that a lot of the big concentrations here are not as flexible. So like econ, gov, CS, like they're not, because there's like 800 kids in one class. It's like, if I say, oh, I need an extension, or I'm flying out across the world, I need to push this, can I take this midterm when I come back? They're gonna be like, no. Or it's gonna be a lot harder. It's gonna be a lot harder to do that. Versus philosophy, where there's, less people, I can get a more, closer connection with professors. The professors know me in the classroom. They, remember my name. Also for me, like, I think, people talk about college as a place to study something that gets you a job. But the thing is, Harvard is a liberal arts college. So although like a lot of the things we learn here are very useful, in terms of like actual connection to the job, there's some disconnect. And so you get a lot of your learning about that through clubs anyway. So in terms of my actual learning, I wanted to, maybe like, when am I ever gonna just like learn to learn ever after these 4 years? So it's like, hey, let me study philosophy. There's a lot of skills that I'd say you learn with philosophy, like arguing, writing well, critiquing well. But for me, it was really just like a place to learn, and the community is great on the philosophy end. So that's kind of how I got into philosophy. They've been, great. The department's been great and, helping me with fencing and my studies. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into philosophy, yeah.
And what about on the finance side?
This was kind of like I kind of just ended up there. So it's like sophomore year, freshman year, like everyone's kind of like, oh, I need an internship. And so I just started applying to a bunch of things, and I got a wealth management internship. And so from there, I actually really liked, what I was doing. Like I was helping people, with their family, things and whatnot. So that was really fun. The community over there was great. Super supportive of my fencing career. So yeah, it's kind of like an accident, but I ended up like really liking the experience, and I'll be working there when I graduate.
So I know you just said you liked helping people. You also mentioned that your mom was a single mom coming from a lower income housing situation experience. Why money, and why finance in particular as a tool to help people?
Like, unfortunately, money is what you need to do things. And so I think, if I can help in any way, well, one, I need to provide for myself. I think it's super important to, establish yourself and set yourself up. I don't think anyone should be ashamed of that. But also, I think money is a way in which, like, you can help people. And so I think understanding, how the whole process works is super important, especially, like, in terms of, like, me in the future wanting to support, fencing and, increasing people getting into fencing. I think, being close to those sides of things, I think will benefit me in the long run.
Such important work. And I hate how, in general, I feel like with women, there's this sense of like, you shouldn't want to be rich. You shouldn't want to have money. It's like, nope, I gotta provide. I gotta do this. Like, it's really incredible what you're doing. What are your plans for the future? We got a lot coming up. So you're graduating. I know there's also LA on the horizon. How are you thinking about the next several years?
This year has definitely been just like an adjusting year, like, coming back to school after all that pressure last season, graduating, starting a new job, getting an apartment, doing adult things.
Wow.
So a lot of adjustment on that end. I'm I don't want to jinx myself, maybe going to World Championships this year. So that's a bunch of adjustments. And then, I think after I get settled, I'll figure things out more. So yeah, going to LA would be sick, but I think right now I kind of want to just focus on slight improvements. I've had 1 World Cup medal and then 2 Olympic medals. Most people tend to get a lot more World Cup medals before they get an Olympic medal. So, maybe getting just more of those, continuing to improve like throughout the season, things like that.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely be following along whatever you decide, whatever ends up happening. And congratulations on the apartment and the adulting life. That's really exciting.
Thank you.
2 questions that we like to ask everyone. What are your hopes for the future of women's sports? We've seen a massive onslaught of support in the last few years. The women have been, getting up to bat doing this work for decades. What is the world that you want to see for women's sports moving forward?
In terms of like what we see on the TV, it's still, male dominated. And so it'd be cool if, I turn on ESPN and maybe there's men's game, they switch to the women's game, or, there's more coverage. Just because I think a lot of that, attention, profitability, it's through like, the media and like what you see on the TV. So that, seeing that increase would be great. I think the women deserve to be compensated in the way in which men do, especially in certain sports where I think honestly the women are like much better, like women's soccer. I know both sides are great, but I feel like from my end, like women's soccer is like our national team is doing phenomenal. And maybe the men need to catch up a little bit, but the compensation should match, that performance. So, seeing more of that where your performance is correlated to, what you're actually doing would be great. But I feel like a part of that is also just the media. So increasing media coverage on women's sports. Yeah.
Yes, we are trying to play our small part in doing that. You have accomplished so much and you have so much more to accomplish. What is one thing you wish that you could say to younger Lauren? So let's pretend that, little Lauren is sitting next to you. If you could go back in time and tell her something, what would you want to say?
Maybe just keep going. I feel like that was like, I did it, but I think you just got to keep pushing. Like you'll have a lot of setbacks, but if you just keep trying at something, you really put your all, it'll pay off. So just keep going.
Yes. And the question that we like to end with is, what is the one action you want our community to take after hearing your story? So we have community members in 56 countries. They're Olympians, Paralympians, aspiring elite athletes, people who just love women's sports. What is the one thing you want our community to do?
Basically, bare minimum, just watch women's sports. Like the more you watch, the more you tune in, the better things will get. So yeah, tune into women's sports.
Thanks for tuning in to Flame Bearers Unedited. If you like what you're hearing, please leave us a positive review on your favorite podcasting platform or YouTube. If you want to see more behind the scenes coverage, follow us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, X, whatever platform you're on, we're there too. Thanks, and we'll catch you on our next episode.